All right. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Innovation in Polkadot DeFi. My name is Peter Warwick. I'm Head of Public Affairs at Parity Technologies. Thank you all for being here today. I think first we should do a brief round of introductions of everyone here. We have quite a large group and a lot of things to get to. So let's start out with the organizer of the event today, Yubo.
Hey, everyone. This is Yubo Run, founder of Parallel Finance. I am a first-time entrepreneur. Started my first company in high school, dropping out, and then spent some time in the VC space in the last 4.5 years, both traditional VC and then crypto, running a crypto fund called A Decimal Capital. And then spending some time with one of the portfolio company, DeFi, on engineering works in 2020, and then eventually started Parallel Finance. And we built all DeFi kind of solutions on the Polkadot space.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Ingo, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm Ingo. I'm a computer scientist from Germany. I founded Kilt protocol in 2018, I think, so quite a couple of years ago. Been there ever since, worked in the Polkadot ecosystem, I think right from the start, probably. One of the first projects which started developing on Substrate, and yeah, now we're here.
Great. Dominic, you're up next.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Dominic. I come from academia originally. I did a PhD on computer science at Imperial College, where I met my co-founder, Alexei. We did a protocol together on how to bring Bitcoin to other ecosystems, and we got approached then by the Web3 Foundation, started a cool collaboration to bring that into the Polkadot and Kusama space, and now we are hopefully gonna be live on Kusama soon with our Kintsugi network, and excited to bring Bitcoin into the space.
Thank you very much. Lucas, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name's Lucas. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Centrifuge. Been in crypto since 2017. Sort of started seeing sort of what went on there, and we've been sort of focusing on bringing real-world assets into this crypto world and sort of figuring out how to let people use all of these technologies that we are building here for not just their crypto native assets, but also things like real estate, commodities, invoices, really anything. And yeah, Centrifuge, maybe it's been live with a substrate-based proof-of-stake network since last March. We are now getting ready to launch on Kusama with our network called Altair. And well, when we know about Polkadot, we'll hopefully then on Polkadot.
Last but not least, the most recent Kusama Parachain slot winner, Kenny. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I myself am not the slot winner, but I'm
get in that slot, Kenny.
Hey, by the way, Peter, I love that clean shaved look. Like.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I did it just for you all.
Nice. Yeah, so hi, my name is Kenny. I'm one of the core contributors to Manta Network, and our Kusama parachain is Calamari Network. And we're all about privacy. So we use zero-knowledge proofs to provide privacy to various parachain assets on both Polkadot and Kusama, specifically for DeFi.
Awesome. So I think we'll start with you. Tell us a bit about the experience, both bidding in an auction, like gathering your crowd loan support. Like, how was the whole process for you?
I would say right now that Calamari Network should definitely be considered an outlier. So we came in expecting chaos as per Kusama, and we bit off more than we can chew from there. So we started off our auctions pretty early, before the auctions even started, right? A little bit after Kilt. But if you just think of it from like sort of that game or zero-sum game theory-esque scenario, right? Like it kind of pushed us against Kilt in the sense that, there are 2 projects there and then a bunch of other projects as well. But as soon as things started ramping up, people started getting excited. And so I would say that, that early mover advantage is definitely there in terms of, picking up on people's excitement. And I do think, the way that our parachain auctions kind of were laid out, there was I guess what we laid out as the rules for the allocations of the rewards versus what features could be supported by the actual auction. And so, the misalignment there caused a lot of confusion as well, which is where the chaos sort of really ramped up. But we are honoring all contributions, so that's the good news for the community. And yeah, I mean, overall, it's been a really fun, long experience. This has been the longest 2 weeks of my life. I could definitely say that with confidence. A lot of community interaction, hearing people on Telegram and Discord and chatting with people all the time. But yeah, I mean, overall, the experience, looking back on it, I would say it has been really fun and really learned a lot.
Ingo, interested to see if you agree that it was really fun and your experience going through. And I don't think we've actually spoke since you acquired the slot. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a little hard to speak to anyone outside of the community chats these days, but that'll change.
Yeah, Ingo, I was going to say congratulations. I don't think we've spoken since the second batch opened. How was it for you?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, for us it was better because we had only 1 week, right? So not so much else. But this week was extremely intense. We also had far more community interaction that we would ever have dreamt of, which is cool on the one side because you see that there's actually people out there, right? And it's not just like, okay, there's a Telegram group and then there's people on Twitter, but then all of a sudden they start interacting and have questions, and some of the questions are really good, and so that was very intense for us. I think the communication team didn't get any sleep in the whole week, but it was cool. And yeah, from strategy wise, I can just second this. Being early is a good idea, because then it's over at one point and you can start working again. And yeah, I think it went pretty well for us. We were ahead all the time. We also started early, very early, earlier than you guys. And I think that was also a good idea because people were just starting to throw Kusamas into the votes, and I think it was somehow expected that we start a little bit early, even though it was nowhere announced actually when it actually starts. But we saw it starting when one project, I don't know which it was, suddenly started there and said, "Wow, okay, we can actually start as well." And then we did, and that was how it worked. So no big strategy behind that actually.
Yeah, lack of sleep is a pandemic in crowd loan world. So let's talk like to be acquired slots. Lucas, what's the next couple of weeks looking like for you and the team?
I wish I had a crystal ball. Well, I think I mean, you mentioned expect chaos. I think have no expectations at all is the right way to go about it. I mean, it already started with just the timeline itself. We had most of the first crowd loan was actually first batch of auctions was a good try run. We did a lot of stuff, and learned a lot of things from that we then I think got significantly sort of more streamlined, all the communications, having people in the right place, making sure we can be reached, and talk about what we're doing, and sort of going into the second crowd loan was definitely easier than the first one, and I think sort of for the next couple of weeks, I mean, it's going to be like getting people excited about what we're doing, sort of the massive use case that we're going after. For Centrifuge, it's an interesting. It's interesting for us because we are in a very different situation than most Polkadot projects because we are live already. So we have like existing users, we have an existing chain with data. So we had to think about how we do this whole snapshot and give our existing users as also part of Altair. And so that part I think is maybe a bit different. And I'm really curious to see what other how other projects are going to handle that in the future. Because yeah, that I think was maybe something that we had to take into account as well. And so it was a bit like we couldn't just fully focus on the Altair crowd loan. We still had to make sure that everything else was running smoothly, and we did. Yeah. So I think our whole team was doing double shifts.
And breaking ground for folks, like you said, that'll come after and need to do the same stuff. So appreciate the work on everyone else's behalf also. Really, the extra complexity is not to be understated. Let's talk, Dominic. We don't have any bridges yet. We need some bridges. When are we going to get a bridge?
Yeah, like we're working hard on it. So I guess for us it was also a pretty crazy experience. Like we originally started the project as like Polka BTC, right? So the idea in the beginning was to be actually a common good on Kusama and on Polkadot. And like we discussed a lot, we have these custodians that take Bitcoin because there's really no other way around it. And they have to collateralize their positions. But then everybody we talked to that would potentially run a vault, they were like, yeah, but where's our upside? And so we eventually decided, okay, actually, it does make a lot more sense to run this as a community network. And then basically, I think when the second batch of auctions were announced, we were like, okay, we need a new brand for Kusama. We actually need to come up with a proper name, a marketing strategy, an ambassador program. So that was super intense. We're getting there. But yeah, I did get a lot of sleep the last couple of days and weeks. But I think it's really cool to see actually like the community behind it. And what we're trying to do mostly is to partner now with the other projects that are already live or planning to go live, because really what we think is we basically start off with Bitcoin and using that in the other DeFi applications. And I think really that's the idea. Like while we are competing for all these slots right now, the idea is eventually there will be enough space, right? So, and I think it would be cool to have Bitcoin liquidity. And I think any other project that's live on the system will profit from that as well. And yeah, and then we have some cool new stuff that we're working on as well, like maybe you can do some Pepe Cash that's native to Bitcoin as NFTs directly on our parachain. Yeah, so it's an intense experience, to be honest. Yeah, but good.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be really exciting when that multi-network interoperability becomes a thing, and like. I think it's Jacob from Hydra saying in the chat, like all of crypto needs a good trustless BTC bridge. So let's get it done. Yubo, the youngest chain on the block. What's your next couple of weeks looking
like? It's tough. It's very tough. Frankly, we just started the company 5 to 6 months ago of the whole, parallel stuff. And it's been quite a intense journey in the last 5 to 6 months, starting from building the team, raising capital, building products, and then starting the crowd loan, a lot of work. Frankly, we spend a lot of time thinking about how to build a product for crowd loan. We noticed that a lot of the problem exists for the crowd loan investors, one of them being the lack of liquidity over the next 48 weeks for Kusama crowd loan, and then close to 2 years for Polkadot. And then the lack of hedging options for crowd loan investors. They don't have another way to hedge their token rewards. What if it goes down and stuff like that? And so we started to research and then build a solution while we're doing Kusama crowd loans. And then I think we are about to launch what we call auction loan 2.0 product. So people can use our parachain to contribute it to a specific projects. The benefits will be people can borrow Kusama with a under collateralized loan. They only need to pay the interest payments and then get a full principal amount to support any project they want. On the other hand, the lenders can also receive much higher Kusama native returns, much higher than 14% based on the current money market lending rate or borrow rates. And then at the same time, they could actually exit their deposit positions before even before the auction started. They can sell that on our specialized designed money market with a discount, trade it as a zero coupon bond, or they can wait in a queue until someone come in and to match their orders. So first come, first serve. However, they have to wait some uncertainty time, but then they don't have any slippage or any cost. So we sort of slipping the crowd loan investor into a lender and a contributor. Lender don't have to take any project specific risks, but they're only earning higher interest with lower better liquidity. On the other hand, contributors can either contribute through the traditional way or with this leveraged way, right? They can borrow capital with under collateralized loan to contribute and get higher, sort of return with higher capital efficiency. And so, being part of the project issuers make us realize the problem exists in the crowd loan space that we can better solve for those contributors and investors. And so that's kind of what we really focus on. And then we hope that we can launch that product as soon as we can to the community.
Yeah, really interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see what other sort of interesting either products specific to the crowd loan or gamification that teams use to sort of bolster their campaign to get a slot and raise the bond for a parachain. Let's talk a little bit about product rollout. I think we'll start with Ingo here because you've had the most time to think about it since you had got your slot just a week or so ago. So what's the product looking like? What's the rollout plan?
Yeah, so we stated when I think even before we got the crowd loan. So the first thing is, of course, start producing blocks and then looking at it if the blocks really come. And as we have external collators in our network, we are currently onboarding the external collators. That's the first thing, because this is pretty new, and we do it one by one. So just not throwing too much chaos in, and this is going to be finished pretty soon, I hope. And the next thing that we do is then that we add governance to our system, and then we are going to add all the Kilt functionality to our system, and then we basically go into decentralization. So we remove the pseudo key, and then the product is basically live and kicking and there for everyone. So that's the thing that we try to reach. We always said between 2 or 3 months. So there's already a week gone of that. So but we're making good progress. We're still in the timeline. So this is basically what's going to come. And I think the big task after that is actually getting projects done, right? I think we all have to somehow show the value of this Kusama and Polkadot network. And the value is not shown only by Kilt doing something or Kilt having a cool project. It is done by seeing that Kilt and other projects of the ecosystem start working together and creating value, which is more than the individual project. And this is my hardest task right now, where I'm working on. I'm trying to speak with everyone in the ecosystem and try to figure out projects, not 10-year down the road projects, which are so complicated that we cannot manage them. Let's call them low-hanging fruits, things where we can easily work together and see, wow, here you put identity on this DeFi product, and now it becomes a little bit better or a little bit more user-friendly or a little bit more interesting for the market or whatever. So these things, I think this is the most important task probably for all of us that we have to do in the next months and probably year, that we really show the value of why are we here, right? It's not just for having a parachain. It's here to cooperate and to create value together. And these are the things which are right now, for me, really important. And there's very, very interesting things. I'm not going into detail about interesting things, but different types of projects coming up for Kilt, and we're really looking forward to that because we have tons of ideas, and others also have tons of ideas, and I'm really looking forward to bringing them into life. So that's the biggest challenge for us right now, to find the cool things which can easily and fast be deployed on different chains together, using the power which we have now from Kusama, like XCMP and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Really looking forward to realizing true multi-chain applications and use cases. We haven't really seen anything of the sort really work out thus far. So really excited to see that come together, and appreciate the sentiment that it's about working together as many chains to create a bigger future goal, rather than trying to do everything on your chain the way many sort of solo chains out there market themselves to try to do. Kenny, you've had 1 hour, 1 day to think about your, I'm sure you've been thinking about it already, but what's the product rollout look like now that you've gotten the slot?
Yeah, so I think a lot of similarities to Ingo as what was just mentioned, right? Like our number one priority is enable governance, remove the pseudo keys. I think that's like step one for any parachain project, right? We want to be as decentralized, as not in control as possible. And then from there, we will be enabling the token transfer, which will allow people to actually start receiving rewards. Same sort of time frame. And then we are rolling out MariPay, which is our private transacting service for parachain assets. We'll be rolling that out this year as well. So, that's kind of on our short-term roadmap. And then next year we'll be rolling out Mari Swap, which is our private AMM DEX.
And I was on mute. Awesome. Lucas, you touched on the specific challenges that you have sort of turning on a parachain a little bit earlier. Maybe you can talk about that a bit more, or also, generally speaking, sort of the state of the product that you have that's live already, and maybe some of those specific challenges again that you're sort of figuring out a plan to bring them over to Kusama and Polkadot.
Yeah. So Centrifuge actually we've been around for a while, 4 years now, and we've been sort of seeing how DeFi on Ethereum first developed and been continuously building out a product. And so today, we knew we wanted to deploy something before parachains were live, and we wanted to actually work on a product, and had users that just didn't want to wait. And so we did sort of build our first version on Ethereum, and then sort of started moving more and more to our substrate-based chain. We're today actually integrated into Maker. We're launching an Aave market in the coming months, which will allow actually users who want to borrow money against real-world assets to borrow from already today from Maker, in the future also from like an Aave money market, and of course as the Kusama ecosystem goes live, I'm really excited to also see how we can integrate sort of these different new collateral types into Kusama. I think the exciting thing about sort of the assets that we bring, and that's really unique to crypto as a whole, is that these assets are uncorrelated, and they are so much bigger than what we see in crypto today, and allow us to go after these new users that can't use crypto today. Because the 6 of us here on this panel, a lot of the people joining in the crowdcast here, probably heard about crypto, decided they want to buy some, use it, and have crypto native assets. But if I look at my parents or my high school friends, they want to buy a house or pay for education, and when they want to borrow money, they don't care about using Bitcoin as collateral or using Kusama as collateral, but they actually have an income or a job, right? And so our goal is actually to allow them to borrow stable coins so that they can finance their house or their renovation. And so that is of course something that everybody in the world needs. And so we're trying to bring these asset classes into sort of every DeFi ecosystem, every niche that's out there. One of the sort of with that sort of broad vision, like one of the things we are doing is we have over 15,000 token holders on Centrifuge chain today, where we've been sort of, there's been liquidity in the market for Centrifuge since July 14th. We've been sort of rolling out and growing the community here quite a bit. And so this means there's also obviously a large group of users who will be looking to start using Altair. And so for us, actually, our rollout will look like we did a sort of determined a random time point where we sort of created a snapshot of the network state, and we're sort of migrating or copying over most of the state that we have that's relevant for Altair, and actually sort of look at Altair as a fork from Centrifuge that will then develop and sort of diverge as I think Kusama and Polkadot are diverging. So in a way, it's actually that strategy was very similar to what how Kusama launched. And then from that point on, decentralize, use a council, use sort of our token holders to roll out more and more functionality.
Great, yeah, very complex to be sure, but looking forward to seeing it all work out smoothly. Dominic, in terms of getting a bridge live on Kusama, like what's that? You know, we heard from a couple teams that are deploying, you know, a layer one. Obviously, a bridge is something a little bit different. Like, what's the process look like for getting a bridge connected and turned on?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess the biggest technical challenge for us is clearly we have to interact with Bitcoin as well, which out of the box, if you ever done any scripting on Bitcoin, it's a little bit tricky. And yeah, you need to have actually pretty solid understanding how to build a bridge in a decentralized way. I think there's also a reason why currently on Ethereum there's no such decentralized bridge deployed, right? So it's really hard to build these relays properly. It's hard to test it, and let's say if something goes wrong, right, on Kusama, your parachain, like with sudo keys, you can kind of roll it back, but you will never be able to roll back the state on Bitcoin itself. So you got to make triple sure that whatever you're doing in this true cross-chain setting is actually working well. So that's our biggest concern, and that's why we basically have a testnet already running since March, because yes, audits are great and we try to stick to like best practices in security engineering, but the best test is like actual users interacting with your platform. So that's really good for us. And then we're basically concentrating on this Bitcoin bridge right now, but then we want to move towards like these two bridges. So we're going to have the Kintsugi network on Kusama and then the inter-BTC network on Polkadot. I think Maker has they give a good talk about like how risk management works. So core bridge should be like super stable, should be not a ton of innovation, but you want to have stability. But around it, you can do a lot of innovation. Like you can, for example, allow an EVM to do access to state of Bitcoin. You could build Bitcoin derivatives on top of our bridge, for example. Or you can add new assets on Kusama. We can go a bit wild. Like we can obviously add like a Doge bridge as well. We just need to like a Doge relay. We can add like Pepe Cash and that sort of stuff. We can also play around with different trust models. So we did like the hard part, right? Everybody can just become a custodian by collateralizing, similar to how Maker's DAI work. But we can obviously also support if there's like vaults that want to create like a new asset, like a centralized version of Bitcoin, like our infrastructure is set up to support that as well. Like if anybody would run it, create a new wrapped Bitcoin representation that's centralized, go ahead, you can use our infrastructure already to do that. So there's like all these angles where we can see the bridge basically developing. And yeah, but it's been quite a challenge to get it like decentralized from the start. But we strongly believe that if you want to build a decentralized piece of technology, it needs to be decentralized from the very get-go. Otherwise, there's little motivation to decentralize the tech later on.
Yeah, Gav had some choice commentary on this point in the Polkadot water cooler recently, sort of generally saying like projects that launch in a more centralized manner and then try to back into decentralization over time are going to have a really tough time of it. So it's better to do the hard work of decentralizing these networks from the start, and rather than doing the reverse. So I think we're hopefully all building with that mindset in the Polkadot ecosystem, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm here to stay. So no flash in the pan, hot crypto project, yada, yada, yada. Like I want to be here talking to you all in 30 years. So Yubo, I know you're, like I said, still sorting out like what the full roadmap looks like, but you know, what's the first product you think you would look to get live once you do acquire a slot?
Great question. So I think we're gonna have a few products gonna go live. One of the most important one would be the auction loan product that I just described, which helped us, sort of investors to better manage their risk and then their capital efficiency. Along the side, we have been spending a lot of time building the basic DeFi primitives, including the money markets and then the liquid staking solutions. And I think that those two products will be launched as well. It's just that we're going to launch with this sort of capped capacity. And then we want to make sure that our product is extremely safe, and then so that we can scale up to larger amount of users. And then at the same time, so if the audience have used our product, they can see we have sort of a early versions of Exemplify, or sort of like a wallet experience, so they can see their the balances across different chains. At the beginning, we only support our own chains and then the relay chain, and then in the meantime, sort of adding on some other options to support all of the parachains, so that they can manage and see their total Polkadot ecosystem plus Kusama ecosystem, asset distributions, and then what's your crowd loan contribution, where is it, and then how much you get, and etc. So that will be sort of an initial state of the product. But I would say like the most exciting product for us will be the under collateralized lending auction loans. I think one of the audience asked like, what is sort of the yield that we can provide? So this is a floating rate money markets, and it really depends on the utilization ratio. So say that if there are over 85% of the capital has been borrowed out to do crowd loans, then the interest rate on our platform will be around 30. Supply rate will be 33 to 35 ish. Based on the current curve. So basically, people earn much higher yield than staking, but they take a little bit suffer in terms of their liquidity. So we will have like 3 tokens. One we call C token, which is the crowd loan tokens, C dot and C Kusama, highest return, but then relatively lower liquidity. They can exit it, but then they have to take a little bit fees. The second one is called X Kusama, which is sort of the staked version of Kusama or DOT, and then they earn around 14% organic returns, but then the liquidity is much faster, up to 7 days for Kusama. They can also exit it through our special design, sort of zero slippage AMM that they can get out pretty fast. And then the last one will be the P Kusama, which is the parallel money market Kusama. Lowest return, maybe less than 14%. We estimate it to be like a couple percent, mid-single digit. But then instant liquidity, you can withdraw anytime. So on a higher level, we provide this sort of a saving account so that people don't have to care about how to use those combinations of protocols, and they shouldn't be thinking about it at all. It should be just sort of a robot advisor type of stuff. Select how much return you want to have, how much liquidity you want to have, and we help them allocate their Kusama or DOT into different categories, and then they will return this sort of combined capital return allocation strategies. So that's sort of a little bit next step product that we plan to roll out.
Really exciting stuff. Interesting to hear you sort of get your mind around how all these things are gonna interact with each other, and then bring a lot of very interesting options to users across the board. If folks have questions, be sure to put them in the question box. If you put them in the chat, they're going to be hard to pull up. So just make sure that you hit that little plus sign and change it to say ask a question, or just hit the ask a question button and drop it in there. I will ask a couple questions from the chat. I think one of the most upvoted ones is a perfect one for Lucas. Which asset class from traditional finance or the world are you most excited about bringing into DeFi?
Oof, there's so many different ones. It's a tough one. I think the most excited asset classes are the ones that are really badly served by the traditional financial system. And this is actually a very, very vast category of assets, because we know like the banks of today, they like do something if they can develop a product that will serve 50 million Americans in the US. But if it's like a couple of 100,000 borrowers that are like slightly more exotic, usually they're like, oh, this is not big enough for us. So I think and this is also like how some of the first assets we started working with are exactly those kind of asset classes. So for one of the ones is like emerging market lending. I think it's a huge part of the world has very bad access to financial products. And so, for example, Branch is a company we work with that give out short-term loans to people in markets that have almost no banking infrastructure. So things like that I'm very excited about, because I think it really is changing the financial system and sort of getting to a point of where what we, I think, believe crypto should be, which is really making it more accessible, removing these barriers of entry for everybody, right? Not just for the tech savvy or for the sort of the very well banked US market, but really like sort of opening that up. And I think that's what I would say are the ones I get most excited about.
Yeah, it's actually not all about, fucking the banks and all the rest. It's actually about giving service to the people that they don't serve, and that accomplishes the goal long term anyway. We don't have to be purely combative all the time, because you're right, like us sitting here in Miami, we don't have financial infrastructure issues really, right? Like it's not necessarily about us in the long term, it's about everyone. Let's see if there's anything else here in the chat, and we can go back to some of the regular Q's and A's. The topic of this panel is innovation in Polkadot DeFi. So I was thinking we could probably go around the horn and each detail what you think the most innovative thing that is being done or will be done in Polkadot native DeFi that is, uniquely enabled because of Polkadot. So thinking multi-chain, thinking, really scalable and customizable framework to build on. What's like the most interesting thing in Polkadot DeFi that you can either have seen or you can imagine happening, to sort of thinking about how things are going to develop. Let's randomly select. Dominic, let's go with you first.
All right, cool. So I think one of the big innovations in the Polkadot space is that each of these parachain products will have to focus, I think, on one specific area. So you'll have parachains specializing on privacy, decentralized identities, on real-world assets, on Bitcoin, on DeFi. And the cool thing is they will be basically innovation hubs that will foster projects building on top, right? So I imagine that most of these projects, like our chain and probably all the others here, will have capabilities to let people innovate on top of that, right? So you'll get like a Bitcoin and hub, you get like a privacy hub, and people just take it and build on top of that. But because you have Polkadot and Kusama on the XCM level, you have this built-in multi-chain integration, which makes it super easy for users to kind of switch around between these different parachains, which I think is the big promise of it. And I think the auctions are great for that, because the projects really need to work on what's our what do we bring to the ecosystem. And then I think it's beyond that as well. We're gonna be integrated to Cosmos as well. So I think slowly we're gonna get to this multi-chain version where you have use cases, but it doesn't really matter which L1 you're using. You can the user just mingles between them as much as you want.
Awesome. Kaspar's the art on the wall behind. I'm in a hotel room in Miami. It's not that interesting. Let's go. Yubo, you've already talked about some fairly innovative products around, crowd loans specifically. But what else, whether it's something you're developing or you see other people putting together, or something you just imagine could be possible, what's the most innovative thing you see in Polkadot DeFi?
I think that, in my opinion, I think Polkadot, people might misunderstand that, people are building for Polkadot, but I think that Polkadot serves as a launchpad for radical ideas that requires to build on top of blockchain itself, right? So you either can choose, as a developer, to build your own smart contracts on some layer 1 chains, where you launch your own blockchains that is powered by Substrate and then connected to the Polkadot network. First of all, you got this shared pool security. Second of all, you got this true, cross-chain levels, contract level interoperabilities. So what I can see likely is that things like very complex derivative can be achieved on Polkadot space on top of substrate chain. Things like securities and the privacy related solutions that Manta Network is doing, I think is really innovative. And I also see that identity, decentralized identity that Kilt is building is like super fascinating concept that can enables like real world users, and plus Centrifuge like sort of this real world asset ranging into the existing systems. But at the same time, what I see like even more interesting would be the fact that we can provide this sort of a second layer customizations to customize that for a specific use case. For example, we utilize this sort of scheduled transaction capabilities to perform some actions. In the DeFi space, what I can think of is sort of something like a dollar cost average strategies, which is kind of harder to implement on Ethereum, but I think it's easier to do on the substrate chains. And then also things like off-chain workers that can enable a lot of the HTTP requests through some off-chain servers to get data, and I think that's fascinating to combine. It's supposed to be like this ideas of like you can build your own AWS, and then there are so much like capabilities that can be built on top. And I see the general thesis or principle here is that anything that is much more complex, that is harder to achieve through a smart contract platforms, I think Polkadot can take that opportunity and do make it happen.
Agreed. You got a couple shout outs in there. Let's go with Ingo. What's the most innovative thing you think can imagine in Polkadot DeFi? Maybe something specific to how true decentralized identity could be used now that we're on the path to actually solving this long-term problem that's been in the crypto space.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not from the DeFi space. I'm probably the wrongest person on this panel that you can ask about the future and the most innovative things which are going to happen on DeFi. But as we noticed in the last couple of months, basically, is that decentralized identity is a hot topic for DeFi. Obviously, on the one side, there's coming more regulation in, and on the other side, actually, the DeFi doesn't really want that, and we have to find middle ground somewhere, so that maybe DeFi projects or decentralized exchanges and all those basically can somehow identify their users without knowing who their users are, and this is what basically people need, obviously, and without storing anything other than storing the transactions on the blockchain, which are happening anyway. So there's a lot of things which are going on, obviously, and there's a lot of interesting projects starting to speak with us and asking how they can utilize Kilt as an infrastructure, and this is exactly how we want to be seen. We are an infrastructure, right? So you are a piece of this Polkadot world that you just grab and you use it, and then hopefully you can do things faster and better than you could do them before. And this is just where we want to stand, and we don't want to be the DeFi a decentralized identity protocol or infrastructure or layer or whatever. I think it is important that we are open to everything, not only DeFi but also to whatever other like health and other applications that you might think of, or education and so on, where you need verifiable credentials and decentralized identifiers. And bring those things together, and this is exactly what happens then when you think it together. For example, with Centrifuge, right? Centrifuge is talking about real-world assets. Those real-world assets are probably somehow identified by an identifier, and you can use this decentralized identifier methods to bring it into the DeFi world and to identify the assets on one side and their virtual counterparts or whatever on the other side, and then bring them together with the people who actually own them or own part of it, and all this. So I think it's a universal thing, and it's something which is necessary as an underlying infrastructure, and we see it from there.
Yeah, lots of interesting things, right? Like you can imagine scenarios in which, like, in order to access a DeFi product, right, you need to be able to verify that you are a real person and not a bot, which could help eliminate some of the manipulation that we see in a lot of places. There's a lot of different applications. Kenny, over to you. What's hot in Polkadot DeFi?
I think, we talk a lot about like composability, interoperability, right? But like, I think what it really boils down to is being able to introduce a decentralized way to provide as a service solutions, right? Like if you think about ecosystems and other chains, like Ethereum, for example, right? Like how do people add new features to their projects, right? You can fork code, then you bring in a team to maintain that code, or you continue to fork the other code. But the problem here is that, like, if, for example, if I wanted to add privacy to a product on chain right now, right, like I can either use that privacy service or I could fork the code. But nowhere can I just use the privacy or use that privacy product as a service, right? And I think with Polkadot's interoperability, that enables as a service, right? And so that kind of gets back to the heart of what everyone was discussing about, being able to specialize in one particular area, right? With like Manta and Calamari, we're specializing in privacy. And yeah, we're launching Manta Pay as a product so that people can have something tangible to actually use. But at the end of the day, I think, like, as Ingo mentioned about being infrastructure, right? I think that's exactly where all these products are headed for all of us here, right? It's like, if you need privacy, you can plug Manta Network's privacy directly in with integrating into your application, rather than having to force people to go to Manta Network and use Manta Pay, right? Manta Pay can be that privacy utility underneath. Same with Kilt with identity, and same with Interlay with BTC, et cetera, right? Like, I think like the beauty of it here is like the user experience on Polkadot, especially with composability and these as a service type approaches, is going to be much different than if we were building on, I guess, namely Ethereum. We're no longer needing to be recognized as Manta Network or Calamari Network. We are now the utility for privacy, right? Just as all of your lights are all on and we all have internet connection, but we don't have to worry about who's our internet provider.
Well said. Last but not least, Lucas, close us out.
Sorry, I had to unmute. This is something that I'm really actually curious to see about how interoperability in Polkadot will work. I think two things that made Ethereum most successful were first the EVM and then second the ERC20 token standard. And I think people a lot of time underestimate just how important it is and how such a simple standard with such a simple interface makes it very, very easy to work with different things, right? Like, as long as you can express whatever it is that you want to do as a token, then it can be used with whatever other project you want to use. And that is the thing that we as a Polkadot ecosystem and Kusama sort of building these parachains need to think about going forward, because that's ultimately how we can build this crazy stuff that we probably have no idea will exist. Like, I mean, if I had to make any predictions 3 years ago, I probably would have been wrong in pretty much everything.
That's why
but sort of the underlying thing, and
that's why predictions are fun, because they're mostly wrong.
Yeah. So I mean, I think my prediction maybe is that, and this is where Substrate has a few really cool features, is that way more is going to be actually automated and protocol to protocol interaction and not like user triggered interactions. And so and that's sort of seeing DeFi today. It's like maybe Yearn was like one of the first ones to say, okay, we're going to take these 5 different DeFi protocols and like make sure we balance capital allocation most efficiently across everything, and do this with some automated scripts. But like, we're still like very, very much like driven by human interaction sort of on chain. And so if I think of like what's the evolution of DeFi, I think that's where it will go, like much more like not bot, but chain to chain interaction. And I think that's going to be really cool, because like with off-chain workers, with like the the XCMP will have cool stuff happening here.
Yeah, automation is cool and key, and also something I think regulators globally understand is actually one of the big benefits of crypto. Is like there's a lot of things that happen in financial markets that are pretty manual, that don't need to be manual, and are safe for consumers if they're automated in a secure way, which these crypto networks hold a great amount of promise to accomplish. And then the other point there is like, I guess my final point on innovation in Polkadot DeFi is like, I don't know, the world does not yet understand the crypto world, the crypto developer world does not yet understand like what asynchronous DeFi ecosystem is going to look like. And I think a lot of smart people think it's actually going to be a lot better in a lot of ways than a fully synchronous system all the time. And open up like a new design space for people to do things that are really interesting and cool and automated or not. But anyway, I thank you all. Go ahead.
Like the async, I think I've been in web development pre-async. I was like writing the first Ajax, like asynchronous JavaScript XML request. And I think, yeah, I mean, like you couldn't imagine what it looked like, and now like everything we do in the web is async, and I sort of think, yeah, there will be the same shift towards like scalability, towards like building stuff that just isn't possible with synchronous systems.
Yeah, the future is not in linear mono-chain smart contract platforms. Thank you all for joining today. Really appreciate it. I think we had a really great, insightful conversation. Really good points from everyone. Really looking forward to seeing you in New York, Lucas, next week, and the rest of you as soon as we can. So everyone, take care, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.